All right, my BIBLEin365 brothers and sisters, we are here. We are at the book of Daniel. And folks, this is power-packed. This is the book that you pop the popcorn for every single time. This is the one that you want to be reading thoroughly. You want to get into it because this is a book filled with prophecies that still have not happened, and you are directly affected by it. By the way, this is also a book that has a tremendous amount of prophecies that were fulfilled in some extraordinarily remarkable ways. I mean, ways you can't even begin to imagine. And we'll go over a few examples of this, but this is the one to go to. Folks, let me just simply tell you this. Daniel is the story that you want to read when it comes to understanding the role of Bible prophecy in the life of a believer. This is the book you want to go to when you want to learn what the perfect example is of somebody who loves and believes in Bible prophecy and loves and believes in their country and is actively involved as a political agent. Literally, with the influence and the power of the Spirit of God, the book of Daniel is remarkable for that. The book of Daniel is the place to go to be able to understand where the rubber meets the road. Daniel does all of that, and Daniel gives us so much incredible insight as into not only the pinpoint accuracy of the Word of God, but the necessity to deploy that in our way of life, bring it into our worldview that drives how we live our life from moment to moment, day to day. This is the book for that. And folks, I'm going to give you just a few examples of why this book is so critical and why it's so powerful. But before I do that, I've got to get into just a little bit of history. I'm not going to get into the intense, in-depth section of it, but I will tell you that I am currently, right now, as we speak, teaching through the book of Daniel on Sunday night. You guys get the links to the Sunday night services. I would go back and catch up on some of the teaching. As a matter of fact, when you watch this, the day that you watch this, I will have just finished Daniel chapter 4, which is a remarkable passage. And again, all dealing with prophecy. This one specifically dealing with going with God's prophetic word to a world leader and watching how God can influence the mind and the heart of a world leader, literally like that. I don't know if the snap's going to go through the microphone, but this is incredible. It is good for so much of this. I cannot tell you enough how much I absolutely love this book. Now, the history that I want to get into just very briefly centers around my setup for what I want to share with respect to chapter 1. And that kind of launches the rest of your understanding of the book. And that is the fact that Daniel was not somebody who just appeared out of nowhere. He was a man who was part of the royal family. Undoubtedly, he would have come from David's bloodline. And he was associated with the royal family in the southern kingdom of Judah. Now, if you remember, there was a big split between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom under the leadership of Rehoboam, who was the son of Solomon. And when that split took place, there were 10 tribes that went to the north. They were referred to as the northern kingdom of Israel. They were destroyed by the Assyrians 200 years before the southern kingdom of Judah was destroyed by the Babylonians, ultimately in 586 BC. Now, this is interesting because there were 3 main sieges that took place by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon against the southern kingdom of Judah before its ultimate demise in 586. And the story that centers around this is remarkable in that the first of those 3 sieges happened in 605 BC. Now, when that happened in 605 BC, the thing that you need to know is that was the siege that Daniel was taken away in. Then there was another siege that took place between 597 and 595, and that would have been the siege that Ezekiel was taken away in. And then, of course, there was another siege that took place on the 9th of Av, 586 BC. Actually, that was the end of the third siege. And it was on that day that, of course, the temple was destroyed. Jerusalem was in essence destroyed and vacated. And literally over 500,000 men, women, and children were killed by none other than King Nebuchadnezzar. So this was a very powerful and significantly somber time for everybody in the southern kingdom. But the Bible tells us that Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself by any of the pressures that existed within the courtyard of the king. He was in a foreign land. He was taken away from his family, who was likely killed, and yet he chose still not to assimilate. He could have had a very comfortable life. He could have literally done anything that he wanted to do under the leadership of Nebuchadnezzar, but he chose to do what God wanted him to do. And in essence, that led him to a life that was also remarkable and in many cases quite comfortable. It just depended on the circumstance that he was in the moment. But he makes all kinds of incredible predictions based on his interpretation of some significant dreams that Nebuchadnezzar had in chapter 2. You've got another scenario that takes place in chapter 3, where there is a very powerful demonstration of God sustaining people in not bowing down. That's the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whose original names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Of course, that's a whole other incredible story. You get into many of the other chapters, and there's all of these predictions. I'll give you an example. Chapter 2, in the prophecy that takes place there, it speaks about 4 kingdoms that Nebuchadnezzar had dreamed about. And what he was talking about were the kingdoms that would come after the Babylonian Empire. So the first, of course, was Babylon. I said Babylon. The first was Babylon. The second would have been the Medo-Persian Empire. The third would have been the Grecian Empire. And then there was the Roman Empire. But there was another nation that he spoke about, which actually was a conglomeration of 10 nations, which is the revived Roman Empire that we are going to see form sooner than later. It hasn't happened yet, folks, and that's what Daniel talks about. There's other places where you see remarkable pinpoint accuracy, like, for example, Daniel chapter 9. And forgive me for this because I'm going to do this from my memory, but in Daniel chapter 9, Daniel, after reading a prophecy from Jeremiah, recognizes that his 70 years being taken away from Israel is up, and he gets to go back to Jerusalem, and he says, Lord, what do you want me to do? And God gives him a prophetic word. And one of the things that God tells him is what is going to happen with the future. Now, it's really interesting because he tells him about 70 weeks, 69 of which are actually fulfilled. By the time we get to Jesus, the 70th week has not happened yet. The 70th week of Daniel is the tribulation period that is yet to come. But this is interesting because if you hit the fast forward button and you go into the New Testament under the account of the Gospels, Jesus will tell the disciples on the day that he rode in on that donkey, we call it Palm Sunday, he tells the Pharisees, you missed this thy day. Okay, very interesting. What was he talking about? Well, what he was talking about was the 69-week prediction of Daniel. And we can do a little bit of math, but he says, from the declaration to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, and then he gives this timeline. Well, the declaration to restore and rebuild Jerusalem happened on March 14th, 445 BC. That's when Artaxerxes Longimanus issued that command. That's in Nehemiah chapter 2. And if you take the calculation from 69 weeks, you do all the math, that brings you to 173,880 days. And if you go from March 14th, 445 BC, you count that many days, that takes you to March 29th, 33 AD, which would have been the exact day that Jesus rode into the city. Folks, they missed this thy day because they were not studying Bible prophecy. And that is the detriment to anybody who chooses to ignore Bible prophecy today. There's so much incredible stuff that can be pulled from all of this. It's incredible. It's amazing. And I would encourage you to invest heavily in Daniel. It's a great book. You'll love it. Get yourself invested in it. You'll grow from it. And I'm telling you, your life will change and your mind will be blown. It's awesome stuff. All right. So one more thing I want to tell you, and that's this. Go out of your way to take some time to listen to these Bible studies that I offer on this. I work very hard to give you a good, solid understanding of what everything means, what it says. You can go and verify it yourself, but I want you guys to make that investment because I truly believe in my heart of hearts that you will be blessed by doing it. All right? So there it is, folks. I'm really proud of you. We are making it through. Thanksgiving week is coming up this week. I'm telling you, I am so thankful that I get to be a part of your life. I'm so grateful to the Lord that he's given me what I have in being able to serve you and minister to you and love on you. I am so proud of you guys. Well done, good and faithful servants. Keep fighting the good fight. I love you guys. God bless you.